Heart friends of the ages, the banner and power of freedom languishes not, but there is a movement in the spirit of men and a movement in the kingdom of God that enables men today, caught in the miasma of the world delusion, to know that the flame of freedom is a vital, surging power of Christ reality whose intimate experiences can be communicated to hearts. We today, born by the passion of God for the children of men, the children of his heart, and the children of his creation, come to you tonight in a decaying world consciousness to bring the vital, breathing reality of spiritual regeneration in the hopes that this generation, caught up in its own shrouds of darkness, will know some fragment of divine reality, will sense some coming forth into the world of form of that spanning dawn which is the universal Christ, panacea, the Logos, the lost word, the beauty of unfolding divinity for the children of men. The world today, caught in the web of delusion and filled with multitudes of fears, is asking itself the question, what is now coming forth into manifestation? And countless hearts, from little children unto the aged, are clamoring for some fragment of reality. The alphabet of the Spirit, lost now many a year from the masses of mankind, is today the most sought-after commodity in the world, although those who are the merchants of the world do not realize it. And they dispense into the kingdoms of the world those defrauding manifestations for which men pay the highest prices and from which they receive the least benefits. We understand full well the need for the sustenance of the body, but, beloved ones, to feed a body that houses that immortal fragment of the bright spirit of man, and to deny that spirit, the Spirit of God, unfoldment in the individual identity, is the most brutal of concepts, and denies to the world their own personal freedom, as the freedom that the universal world order seeks and craves. I come then tonight to remind you of the compassion of the brothers of light, of how they seek to extend themselves, and how they have sought to extend themselves into the world domain as not mere ordinary purpose, but as those extraordinary manifestations of the flame of freedom, those experiences called by unillumined mankind strange experiences, which are really the flame of illumination leaping forth from the heart of God to the heart of man, and imparting to that individual the reality of God. Beloved ones, what now then is the desire of the individual? Individual desires vary. One man is satisfied with a crust, another with a manifesto. Some are satisfied with a feeling of love for one individual. Others must love the whole world. And therefore there are varied manifestations in the consciousness of men. We are concerned with enlarging the borders of man's perceptions, of causing him to understand that regardless of his present state of progress, regardless of his present state of consciousness, the impartation of the power of extension of the hands of the Spirit is given to him gladly from his own divine presence. He has but to reach out and seek to take it, and freedom is his own. Oh yes, you make it sound so easy, beloved Saint Germain, you say. Well, it is just that easy, beloved ones, but mankind have created in their own thought a complex system of doubt, whereby the moment there is a revelation, the moment there is an impartation of spiritual experience, they immediately begin to cast about as to how they may discount it, or find some outer form of expression that will explain it away. We say to you, beloved ones, that fragment of universal faith that framed the worlds, that enables us to possess immortality as ascended beings, is as much your own as it is ours. That you have not appropriated it, that you have not made it your own, that you have not accepted the extension of the hand of God and of the power of the great white brotherhood, is a condition that we ourselves could lament. And the wailing of the children of men for the Spirit of Christ reality is very great. And there are times during the night hours when the soul of man is sleeping in, as some of you have laughingly expressed, the arms of Morpheus, that the individual soul longings of that unconscious individual are expressed to the angelic host. For when man is bereft temporarily of mortal consciousness and mortal doubts, he is able to see more clearly with the eyes of the soul the magnificent opportunities of the Spirit, which can then flash forth and imprint themselves upon the plasma of mortal consciousness, awaiting the dawn of regenerate reality within the soul of the individual. Do you see? And when this occurs, when the individual feels the vital flame of cosmic intelligence surging through his being, he desires so much to impart it unto the waking consciousness. And when the waking consciousness springs forth at the break of the dawn of the morn, then at that moment the individual feels a surge of tremendous happiness and peace, and saith unto himself, "This is a beautiful day." He knoweth not the experiences of the soul consciousness that occurred outside the domain of the waking consciousness, and thus we reveal the duality of the nature of man and show forth for your gaze and understanding how that many human doubts are the result of a misuse and abuse of the blessed consciousness that springs forth from your brains and hearts as the flame of intelligence and emotion unites under the aegis of the Spirit. Oh, beloved ones, what a pity, what a shoddy pity it is that individuals today, filled with the intelligence and power to create so much of good in the world of form, are not able to understand or accept the boundless, expansive powers of the Spirit, and the power of the Spirit to tear from the veil of matter the sundering reality that flashes forth into the consciousness of man his true self. For when the true self is seen, when the true self is known, when the true self is cognized, there in your hands lies the gift of freedom. The freedom to create as God creates, the freedom to think as God thinks, the freedom to be as God is. God could not create a group of human sticks and expect that these sticks should be a pile of rubble upon the earth, unable to proceed in the orderly system of fashioning out of the bones of matter the soul of a God. Yet God could do it and has done it countless times through the lives of avatars and devotees of all ages, men possessed with a more than ordinary sense of spiritual dimensions, men whose eyes were open to the flame of universal reality, soaring through the mind and raising the four corners thereof, purging the spirit of its strange dioramas of confinement, and revealing to the passionate consciousness the love of God that through the ages has sought to extend that flame into the world of matter and form. We then today, mindful of the awful pressures, the awesome struggles of mankind, the wickedness in high places that seeks to diversify mankind from his spiritual purposes, to divert him into channels of darkness, seeks now to utterly destroy the universal patterns of life and deprive this entire planet of its celestial birthright, are coming to you tonight in order to tell you that regardless of the appearance world, regardless of the conditions in manifestation in the governments of the world, regardless of the karmic patterns that threaten to sink continents and bring catastrophic manifestations into manifestation, we are concerned to continue our work through the students of the light, whose devotion is an ever-present source of happiness to our hearts. We know, each one of you, who have understood your role in the hierarchy, who have understood that devotion is the requirement of this hour, as it has been the requirement of every hour in the past. For this planetary body would long ago have vanished and rolled up as a scroll in the universe, had it not been for the sustaining elements of someone's love, who upon this planetary body held the bond of the Spirit and sustained a contact with God that permitted the elements of divine grace to flow forth in mercy's name and to consume the dross in human consciousness by mitigating the thoughts of man to destroy and proceeding to establish in those responsive hearts those extraordinary manifestations of divine love that allied themselves again and again with cosmic purposes. Every time that some individual sought to thwart the plans of God and the love of God, these individuals stepped into the breach in the wall and were able by divine grace to convey to mankind the elements of hope that were the requirements of those hours. We then say to you that regardless of the darkness of the night, regardless of the senseless struggles that are occurring all over the world, of man's disobedience to law and order, of man's continual lack of grace and confusion, of man's continual glaring at one another, as Moria has said in the marketplaces, regardless of mankind's confusions and abuses of the law, of mankind's dodging of responsibility, there are yet upon this planetary body a remnant of souls who have the desire to see the kingdom of God established among men. And because of these souls, we have exerted ourselves and received again and again from the lords of karma cosmic grants extending mercy to the earth, which has enabled the earth to survive yet another year in its present state without too much undue calamity. Yet we are concerned now for many situations, and these situations are gross to say the least, for they threaten the destruction of present systems, ordained and watched over by the hierarchy for generations. I refer now to your own beloved United States of America, to the flame of freedom that was ignited in the heart of your beloved George Washington, that flashed forth in the early days of the Revolution and united hearts against the bond of tyranny that occurred through the thought-provoking acts of George III. We say then to every one of you that the tangled threads of this nation's destiny have come to a place where there is great deceit abroad in the land, and the purveyors of darkness seek in an uneasy world to destroy the beautiful bond of universal light and love that were intended to make America the boldest land in all the world, the land of progress, where the flame of hope and progress could be refanned again and again through the hearts of the people until such a glorious golden age should be and ought to be externalized here, that all the world would follow the example of democratic hearts functioning under a universal republic of divine order, where souls would seek to fashion themselves after the golden rule consciousness and understand that every man that extends freedom to another extends freedom to himself. We say then to every one of you that the children of the world are themselves maturing to adults, that all men are moving in the stream of time to some destiny, either a strange one to their hurt or a beautiful one to the unfolding of their soul consciousness. And the planetary body itself, seeking to take those cosmic initiations for which it is long prepared, often shudders because of the imposition of mankind's darkness upon the warp and woof of creation. The little elementals themselves are often oppressed and hang their heads and weep because of man's continual outpouring of vituperation and condemnation against one another. We have again and again spoken out, most bitterly almost, against gossip and against man's condemnation of one another. Yet individuals have continued to receive the energies of the gossip entity and have functioned in the domain of gossip and condemnation, sometimes in the very name of constructivism. Well, blessed ones, with all of these conditions existing, with the awful degrading art forms that are now being released to the world of art and design by the brothers of the shadow, coming into those alert minds that desire to serve the causes of darkness, we say the world is indeed in a tottering state, yet we are determined to sustain it. We also would call to your attention that as never before the forces of wanton greed are expressing in the world community, and the desires of men to control one another and to control the political and humanitarian destinies of others has never been greater. There are those today in the marketplaces of the world who would sell their soul very cheaply. I think also that they would sell it for less than the proverbial bowl of soup, many times for a cup of coffee or a simple gesture of smiling countenance from another individual. Please understand then that we who see and perceive the hungers of the human heart and the desire to keep the flame of freedom alive in the world community understand how that not only in your beloved America, but in the hearts of a Czechoslovakian people, for example, there is a gnawing, a yearning desire for freedom and the will and wit to labor for it in the face of all adversity heaped upon them. Yet, beloved ones, the world community must understand its oneness. But who in the world community today, among the intelligentsia of the world, is able to set aside the little sheepskin that they have that says, "C'est moi"? Oh, beloved ones, they are so convinced of the fact that they and they alone possess the wisdom to discern the face of the ages, that they fail to recognize that in their broken lives and the strands of miasmic intelligence that is produced in their consciousness, there is utterly no hope for the world. The hope for the world lies in a union of hearts, where individuals understand the simplicity and childlike virtue of the golden rule, where individuals perceive with an honest heart that they can work for the cause of freedom and receive within themselves the recompense of divine beauty which is given to every savant son. Won't you then accept from my heart tonight a fragment of the flame of freedom, that you in some small way or other may participate in the regeneration of the world, regardless of whether or not they accept the reality of our existence or even your own? Do you understand today, in all cosmic honesty, that many of you in this room are not recognized as very potent individuals in the world of form? Well, you see, that which the world does not do, I do. For I want you to know that when the Karmic Board comes together and takes up a case involving an individual who might be classed as a very mediocre individual, won't you please be seated, that individual may be regarded by the entire world as an individual without merit and without purpose and without importance. Yet the Karmic Board renders to that case of the so-called unknown man the same devotionate purpose that they would do for a president or a king. For in the eyes of God, each one is important. And this is the beauty of the universal intelligence. The universal intelligence, perceiving the outflow of the spirit sparks of man's identity leaping toward godhood, permitted and allowed each one to pass through the aperture of birth and manifest in the world of form, so that the consummate identity of God could be born afresh in that individual as it was upon the day when he first came forth in the consciousness of God, and perceiving that he now had individualized existence, said the name of God, I am. For that individual, and I refer to all of you and all life, in the inner state, when you perceive the reality of yourself as an individual flame of God reality, said, "Why, I am," and it was so. For you realized that you had a separate identity that was still connected with the universal presence and was intended to go forth into the world of the finite, into the world of form, and seek the unfolding of its own divinity and destiny. Well, beloved ones, you went forth, and you went forth in hope, and you were caught in the selfsame snares that many others of the sons of God have been caught in. But today, where do we find you now upon the track of time, as some of you have said? Here you are in this 20th century, miraculously at the feet of the Master, miraculously believing in the existence of the invisible world, and miraculously seeking to unfold that latent divinity within yourselves, which you know is the only reality in the universe. I think then there is hope for the world if there is hope for you. What man has done, man can do. And we are concerned that the wit to win shall be your own. We are concerned that the will to win shall be extended into your own heart. And we are concerned that the past, which is prologue, shall be recognized as such, and shall not be a drag upon your nervous energies to pull you down and keep you confined to the Sisyphic rounds world without end. We are concerned then with the manifestation of freedom for you individually per se, but we are also concerned with the freedom of the whole earth, and the earth is in frightful peril tonight. I shall not, as you would say, beloved ones, kid you about this, for I come to you with a very severe and heavy heart, if I should permit it, to tell you that the darkness of the world is appalling and becoming more and more a shroud upon the spiritual energies of men. This is why you must not let down your own guard. This is why you must not permit the forces of tyranny to control you. This is why you must represent me and your beloved Jesus in the world of form, to keep alive the flame of freedom, not because you are perfected beings, but because you are moving onward toward it. All men can share in this fragment of universal hope in which you share. All men can drink this cup of which you have partaken this night. Let it be known then that Saint Germain continues to extend his love for each individual adherent of the sacred fire, this night and always, that we shall continue to uphold the banner of freedom in the world community, that we shall enhance the power and the fire of victory in the universe by our desire to see mankind free, by our desire to break the chains of tyranny, by our desire to offer you a new birth of freedom in this very age of tyranny and age of steel, when men's consciousness is crystallized in the most dense way and seems to be only concerned with its personal involvement in human affairs, its name, its fame, and all of those vanishing quotients which can never in all eternity bring anyone their freedom. For only by submission to the will of God, by subordinate principles to the purposes of God, can man find how that he may plant his feet upon the spiritual path and bask in the sunlight of cosmic purpose. When he is enclosed then by myriad forces seeking to attack his purpose, his progress, his order, his desire, he must continue to fan the flame of cosmic purpose. He must not let betrayal of his energies by any force from within or without be victorious in betraying him or moving him from the path of righteousness for his name's sake. The name of God, I am, is the name you all have and share. It is being extended into the air from the lofty pinnacle of an angel's prayer for mankind caught in the net not fair of human jurisprudence, right there in the world of form, where energy's minions seem to prevent dominion over all of the active and inactive forces, principles aborted now in destruction's vein. Let us then not take the name of God in vain, but saying I am, see and perceive the power not more to deceive, but to free the world, to now believe, lo, I am here and I am there. Lo, I am the power of sacred prayer, the fire to inspire, the power to devour all that is not of the light, to help men to win the fight, to see the light and be the light, for our God is light. Sacred fire, freeing from delusion, sacred fire, holding hand of sanity upon the brow, releasing confusion now, and seeing that the way is clear, to once more perceive that I am near. The power of the sacred fire, the banner ever to inspire, freedom's flame now blazing bright, freedom's power, oh great delight. Come then and glorify the presence of God within you, for this is freedom. This is freedom. This is reality. This is the power over the world. It is the power that the world knoweth not. It is the power to tear the garment of obscurity and perceive shining behind the veil that kingdom of intricacy and wonder from whence we come, to sever every human blunder and give you our love. I thank you. O radiant Mother of the world, Sun the veil between human hearts. Expand the power of the brotherhood of light, and let there flow awareness into the hearts of men of their common aims toward light, realization, and actualization of the God flame. On the altar of the heart, blazing in the image of the Mother of the world. Sun the veil, I say, and let hearts be united as the drippings of the universal candle melt the wax of plasticity into a sea of fire, heated now to the fervor of God in manifestation, uniting the hearts of men and becoming a determinate factor of the age. In the stillness of the heart temple, individuals are able to command energy and say with the Christ upon the sea of old, peace, be still. And the command exercised by any life stream in God's name on behalf of the search for the hands of the Mother of the world will bring into the domain of the heart an understanding of the flow of cosmically magnetic love, the love that tears away the veil of separation, of fear, of illusion, and reveals right where you are that God is the unifying power that unites distant hearts and far-flung worlds. I am the Ancient of Days. But as I say it, I am reminded of those moments of wonder when each of you and all men, coming forth from the universal consciousness of the All-Father, reveled in His light, as was said or almost sung. The morning stars danced together, sung together for joy. Those moments can be rekindled in the heart as the ancient memory reaches out to the universal source. Those sublime moments forgotten now by the consciousness in its meanderings through the valleys of the shadow of death and decay. As men have sought pleasures by every idle turn of the road and have forgotten their source, so do we now call men back to an awareness and realization of who they are. Right where you are, God is. The flame, the peace-commanding presence is within you, and the power of the peace-commanding presence to assert its dominion over your world tonight will enable me to perform a more than ordinary service on behalf of all mankind. Will you then, one and all, without shame, without fear, call to your divine God self to command the energies of your world into stillness? Peace, be still, uttered within yourself now, can still the activity of fear. Fear of any condition, fear of death, fear of fear, fear of losing the game, fear of impurity or shame. All can be stilled by the voice of God, the cosmic flame of dominion within you. And if you will exercise your divine prerogative
and take dominion over your world, over your atoms. I will seek tonight to carry you with me along the stream of my consciousness as we together paint in the world with radiant light the drama of the world of tomorrow, the world that shall be, in which you shall share and in which all men may enter. Out from the heart of the mother of the world, the beautiful pastel rings emanate, and veil after veil drops away. The passion of men to see the architecture of the new age is the passion of men to see the architect of the new age and the author of the new age word, the logos of tomorrow, the logos of today, the logos of yesteryear. All is one, that which was, that which is, that which shall be. It is the hymn of the days, the hymn of the years, the hymn of the cycles, the hymn of praise to Him who has created all our days. He is the Lord of lords, the Lord of yesteryear, the Lord of the present, and the Lord of the future, the Lord of life and the Lord of death, the Lord of beginnings and the Lord of endings, He who supervises man's going out into manifestation and his return to the Godhead and the heart of reality. And therefore, as I come to you, it is to also impart precious wisdom's flame. It is to impart guidance for the age and spiritual assistance by a release of mighty tides of cosmic energy. I come then in response to a call from Lord Gautama, a call from Shambhala, a call from the heart of the Lord of the world, a call from the council at Darjeeling, a call from the Indian Council, a call from the hearts of men, and a call from the universal heart for a release of the power of pure love into manifestation as the flame of universal principle entering into the order of the ages and promoting among the children of men the dream of universal brotherhood come again to life, not as a spirit of competition and strife, not as a spirit of rebellion against the order of universal purity, but as the power to exercise dominion over man's recalcitrant energies, as the power to summon from man's divergent projections of consciousness to a convergence of wholeness, to a realization that the matrix of crossing light rays, all in pursuit of one beautiful aim, will produce one beautiful flame of transcendent purpose, wedded then to the allness of men, and wedding all to that allness again. Will you then bear with me as I invoke the flame of love from the heart of the Lady Master Venus? Will you permit the angels of universal reality who have the gnosis of the beauty of the mind of God to come now to the earth and bear from the bowers of Venus the beautiful patterns that will create the architecture of the new age? Receptive minds, then, as chalices of fire, refining the lenses of perception, will inquire as to just what is the purpose God desires to externalize in all that man shall do, in all that man does. Won't you please be seated? Fire, flame of flow, from the heart of God descend as cosmic mobility, into the chalices of stillness, produce the miracle of the dancing electron. Let men perceive that in their consciousness there exists the attenuation of the divine, the intention of the divine, the omnipresence of the divine, the omnipotence of the divine, and the omniscience of the divine. The combination of these powers in the matrix of man's individual life is the power to expand out of that into the awareness of perfection manifest everywhere. Why? All you ought to do then is to open your eye. Open your eye and see the dancing electrons in the world, and feel, as the law of the domino reveals, how that each beautiful pulsating electron, a part of the universal stream, is in contact with another electron, a part of the universal dream. And as it flows, and as it agitates, and as it creates awareness in the circle of infinite love, men in finite realms perceive the link with heaven above. They see the substance of their dreams, a thought for worlds to come, and understand the need to weave a blessed work well done. They understand the power of love to mold and shape the form. This love, elastic, is reborn, a means to stretch the mind, a means to reach into the law, the pressure to be kind. Love is a thing of grandiose spheres, the activist principle revealed. It hides behind the strands of years. In space it is concealed. But all who love the law of God, who feel a part of truth, will understand the need to prove their cosmic, everlasting youth. Each age, then, is a page, then, of that which one day shall be. Each age, then, is a page, then, a page that you can see, not as a being amongst the dead, but as one who lives for aye. The power of your presence, head, will show you you can't die. For God within you props you up and fills your brain with light. He is the power long concealed that to the world reveals the clearness of the plan divine, the thought of hope in men, the power to heal the eyes so blind, the victory to win. Behold the Christ within. Behold the Christ in men. Behold the Christ of this blessed world. Behold the Christ revealed, the cosmic universal Christ. Behold the Christ as Logos bold, the only begotten Son of old, the Word God has revealed. This is the power, then, blessed ones, to enter in to the understanding of life that by its ageless outreach feels no sense of beginning, of origins, or of endings. This is the sense that lives and cannot die, that weds the soul to all that is real in the universe. And so, as I make a continuation of my prayer to Venus, I want you to receive that great cosmic sense that will avert from your consciousness and divert from your being the old lies of satanic delusion that have sought to break up the particles of the light body of God in physical form, to destroy the sense of the Holy Eucharist in men, to make them feel but a crumb from the Lord's table. I wish to make them whole again. One loaf, one majestic body of the Son, one soul breathing forth creative purpose, that God can say to thy works are well done. O Venus, fill the bowers of the earth with the power to perceive true beauty, the architecture of the Spirit, the cosmic circles of pure light, the iridescent colors bright, the swirl, the curl of parabolic light. Release now then the cosmic sphere with iridescent mother of pearl love swirling there and here. Release the flame fire substance from the cosmic square, the triad of perfection, holy prayer, symmetry divine, descending in majesty through the air. Cosmic crystallography is revealed within you now, a talisman from on high that will explain to you the meaning of talismanic magic so that you may exert dominion over it. Here then is the law of symbol. Listen well and learn that which I tonight would tell. Cosmic symbols, universal hieroglyphs, are old. Geometrics formed of old by the mind of God. These magnificent patterns, pure light revealed, have within their infinite patterns concealed the joy of Fohat, energy, infinite energy, blue lightning, divine love, bursts of cosmic joy that enable men to rule and not to fool one another, to rule by cosmic law themselves, to keep themselves from being placed upon the shelves of uselessness and bring them to a point where they can understand the ancient hieroglyphs. And so these geometric forms, beloved ones, are magnificent cosmic laws twisted not as a pretzel, but in perfect symmetry into patterns of universal power. But here is the beauty of it all, which I reveal this hour. These magnificent macrocosmic patterns, larger than the world, can be shrunk and carefully concealed within the crystal structure of your bones or a cell within your brain. And they can be sorted out from all the diverse patterns of human doubt and confusion, the negatives of the world, which also can be concealed within the crystal structure of your being. An electron of calcium, an electron of substance, any one of the elements that you know. The tremendous flow of the electron can be affected then by the symbol pattern lowered within its domain. For just as suns and sun planes are controlled by God's own thought and the symbols he has wrought, so the world itself, your world, each cell, each pattern, each tiny electron has its own engrammatic pattern. And there is in the seed atom of the heart a central controlling factor that will impart the perfect balanced governorship of all your entire physical body, your physicality and manifestation. And as in the realm of the physical, so in the realm of the mind. The divine intelligence you call your own, that which you have borrowed from on high, and have endowed little by little with those grasps of infinite law, are also subject to the lion's paw of cosmic dominion, by cosmic symbology, by the understanding of talismanic magic, by the understanding of the cosmic law. For some of you are aware of the fact that many years ago in ancient Egypt, your beloved El Morya did erect at Fayum, at Lake Moreas, those mighty obelisks, and charged them with talismanic magic to connect the little space of Lake Moreas. Then, when they were excavated and moved, one to Central Park in New York and another to Trafalgar Square in London, behold, the Atlantic stood between them, a larger body, but the talismans themselves contained within those obelisks continued to function, and so the airy realm of Atlantic, was once again bridged by the self-same thought in symbol form that Moria did wrought in that age at Fayum long ago. And thus you see, talismanic magic is of use and value when it is understood, and when its symbology becomes not a means to modern Robin Hood or some form of debauchery practiced on the children of men, some form of black magic come to earth once again. Not at all. This is not our thought, for we would guide the race away from that pace and point them to the light that enables men to understand how to use the law aright for their freedom, and the power of the flame, that it can descend and shape them for a higher game that they can win. We are concerned then that every one of you shall understand that light is the power to overcome sin and stain, to erase all records which you have written, for which you are to blame. We are concerned with the erasure of those records, with their transmutation, with their adjustment, with their removal, with the invaluable drawing forth within yourself of these engrams of light from on high. For we know that when you draw these engrams of beauty from our world, from Venus, and the color rays are reborn upon the planetary body as those emanations pour forth through your flesh forms, through your minds, through your spirits, and encourage you to understand that you do not have to think in terms of a dense physical body composed of elements of masonry and marble, but you can consider yourselves as cosmic airy beings who have the power to understand the spaces in your own personal togetherness, who can understand that in those spaces of yourself you can create those cosmic engrams of fire that enable you to use the fohat of the Most High God to create cosmic desires in action here in the world of form. Talismanic magic has been practiced in the wrong way, and the dark ones of the world have used that power to actually instill once again into recalcitrant men a continuation of the downhill slide that long ago did wreak havoc on old Atlantis and destroyed also integrity in Mu. We are interested then once again in you and you and you, bringing you to that realm where you can understand the message of the Ancient of Days, where you can understand that God would raise every living soul of you into the beauteous power of cosmic dominion. When you understand talismanic magic, you will also understand how it is being used today in the world of form. Each symbolic outpicturing of psychedelics, which are manifesting in the world today, and the misuse of color is an abortion of the pure color ray which we on Venus would bestow upon the earth. This beautiful planet that we love, our Terra, we of Hesper then would create new worth in men, a sense of cosmic architecture, noble, grand, the building of each soul in this fair land, to understand the need to be an architect of freedom in the world. But what will you make yourself free from? From all of the negative energy that exists in the world that has been sustained by the dark ones. They have created it, they sustain it, and they have spread their symbology in psychedelic art over the world and are promoting it now even upon your television programs, so that commercial advertisers seek to also bring these psychedelic swirls, these reverse spirals, these awful manifestations into being, because they are a form of talismanic magic. Avoid them as the plague. Simply to gaze upon them has a tendency to bring you into that activity. It opens up Pandora's box into the psychic realms of horror. It creates and recreates abortions of the cosmic law. It enslaves the world, and it seeks to keep men underneath the paw of the ape, of ape creations, of slave creations, of darkness, of blackness, of density, and violations of the law. In the name of freedom, they seek this awful thing and manifest the strangeness of the sting of human horror and its creative manifestation. We would free the world tonight from that blight, from that bane, and we would invoke tonight our flame into the world order to seal the door where evil dwells, to put the stone of the Christ over that opening and say, never shalt thou be any more. Retreat into your caves of darkness and horror, into your material realm, where you will be consumed as the atoms of light substance within you must be released by the fiat that rolled away the stone on resurrection day. For that energy is a timeless energy of regeneration. And when light is recalled back to the heart of God, as it does happen at the end of cycle, I want you to know that there will be a moment of great atomic explosion within this netherworld of confusion, and it will roll together in a fiery ball of awful destruction to consume those wrong shapes and hieroglyphs of sin and call them back once again to the central sun, their energy to be repolarized by the light emanations of universal purpose, one for all time to be. We come then, we who embrace the holy will, and we say to the earth, peace, be still. Let the sons of light and love arise, and let them feel the energy from the skies that vibrates through the world structure now, the power of the divine crystal and the mist, the power of the sacred fire gift to men, the power of the Ancient of Days, the fire of Venus, the beauty of Venus, the strength of Venus, the flow of Venus, the love of the Ancient of Days, the love of the Cosmic Mother, the love of praise, the love of reality, the love of gratitude, and the love for love. Let all understand then that as I am speaking to you, the mighty fire angels that have come forth with me have made a determinate effort on behalf of the hierarchy of this planet, and they are sending out pulsating fire rings from this building. What a wonderful thing then that you have become a tangible electrode in the body of God, that your energies are being used as a cosmic trampoline, that the angelic host are actually compressing you and expanding you, compressing you and expanding you, pulsating through you, vibrating through you, and making you an antenna for our light, for the Lady Master Venus, for the hosts of light that came with me from Venus, for the intentions of God for the earth, to penetrate the darkness of insular space with the cosmic light urge, for a determinate win in the battle here below. We are not going to forsake the earth so long as there are here those who esteem themselves as truly sons of God. So long as men have hope and understand that they can live beneath the rod of God and feel its chastening as the love of He who loves the Son. So long as they can understand the need for the battle of the one that in each one crieth out, O separate within yourself the chaff from wheat. Oh, be a threshing machine right now. Don't go down to human defeat. Understand then how that light must sunder itself from darkness, how that light must separate and withdraw from darkness. The darkness that is within you must be transmuted. You must perform the violet flame action. You must use the violet transmuting flame. You must use the flame of illumination. You must use the tangible flames of God. And when you give your decrees and you invoke these flames all around yourself and envision yourself surrounded with these flames, this is not a figment of human imagination. It is an activity of light whereby you are invoking within yourself a power of release that sets you free from the dominion of those negative forces that have found their way into your very bones and become interred therein. That is the meaning of it all. That is what Jesus meant, beloved ones, when long ago, as a Venusian master, he proclaimed upon the earth to men, Ye whited sepulchres, ye are full of dead men's bones. It was because within their bones, within the bony structure of their frame, right within the substance of their mind and being, lay the darkness and deceit of age-old rebellion against the deity. And just one little engram in a person that is negative, blessed ones, can cause that individual a great deal of harm. Don't you see then how these flames must be used? You must use them and use them and use them until your garments are washed white in the life of the Lamb. This is what is meant by the blood of the Lamb. God does not require sacrifice. He does not require men to lose their lives. But He clearly states that those who lose their lives for my sake shall find it again, and those who seek to save their life shall lose it. This means then that those who seek to preserve in a careful manner their life upon this planetary body will suddenly find that they themselves are bereft of a physical body and are floating around in the ethers without any understanding of just how to go. Don't you see that the value of being a student of the ascended masters is the value of understanding cosmic law? You cannot get this alone out of the sacred scriptures called the Holy Bible, for you must be able to tap nature's Bible, to tap the realm of the ages. Those who understand the physical Bible often declare to mankind that civilization is 5,000 years old or more. We want you to know, because we have watched through the ages, that this earth and its environs are millions of years old. And the fires that stoked the sun were started in ages long forgotten, even by many of the masters themselves, who have not for quite a while pursued the record of the birth of this system of worlds. Why, blessed ones, they are able, of course, to recall it if they struggle to do it, but it is so long ago that it seems almost as if it had never happened, as if the sun had always been lit by those beautiful fires that now seem so real, that warm and revivify all of you. Won't you please be seated? For I have a certain action which I wish to do. And I tell you, it is a very important action, too. One which I hope will not only help every one of you, but also the entire planet. For you have to understand that these dark ones now are gathering power of hate in vast reservoirs. And they are gathering that hate into storehouses. And they are storing hate. And when moments come where they feel the need to incite the crowds to riot, they tie into that momentum of hate, and they flash that energy of hate forth with all of its misqualification into the world domain. And then police power and the power of armies is invoked by the political governments of the world. And all of that energy and misqualified substance flows out into the world body. And when you hear about it in the news media, blessed ones, you are disturbed and you say, what in the world is happening here? You should understand, blessed ones, that you are seeing the fruit of man's accumulated hate energy down through the ages, and the storing up of that energy and the release of that energy now in the battle of Armageddon, seeking to destroy man's spiritual values and sense of values, seeking to make men feel that life upon earth is useless, that there is no opportunity to actually bring forth perfection and order in the world scheme. Yet there are many good men in political service, men that you should respect and love, who are rendering a tremendous service to this country, blessed ones. I would like to call your attention, the people of Los Angeles, that your chief of police here in this city is one of these very excellent men that actually at inner levels has a tie to the integrity of the hierarchy. He is a man of great integrity who seeks to do all in his power to keep peace in this county and in this city and throughout this nation. But there are many others, and it is sometimes quite difficult for men to discover just who they are. For there are those who are careless and do not care so much what they do as that they can pull the wool over your eyes. Quite a few of them, then, exist in the world. But, blessed ones, you must learn the lesson, as you have been told before, of beloved Gideon. You must learn the lesson of holding the spear in your hand in readiness. Even as you drink from the stream, you must understand the need to defend the truth and the law, to uphold the cosmic banner of Christ's love. What did the sign of the cross mean to men of old? What does it mean to you? What does liberty and freedom mean to you? You must preserve it by the creative use of that energy, by a release of that energy, by an understanding of cosmic talismanship, by an understanding that the Spirit itself is able to teach you how patterns of beauty can be established in the world once again, how you can draw from our star hope and hope's banner, love and love's banner, perfection and perfection's banner, how you can keep the energy from on high pulsating through your being every day and send it out into the world, past the world through our flame of love, past the youth of the world each day through the flame of love from God's heart. See that you invoke the love ray over the earth, and see also that you make the fiat that that energy you call forth can never be requalified by the human, that no diabolical force can ever take your energy and imprison it in a crystal pattern and descend it into the density of men's bones, there to act as a talisman for evil. There are enough talismans for evil in the world now without creating any more. And we must ask you to draw forth talismans for God, talismans for love. Understand then the power of the sacred fire jewels and the compression of cosmic light energy into beautiful patterns, charged with divine love, charged with divine purpose, charged with divine freedom, charged with the energy of the Ancient of Days, and charged with the power to say to the soul, go free, behold, flow into the world order as cosmic majesty. Take dominion over your own life. Take dominion over the world and be the authority in the world. You have the right to invoke in God's name the banner of Christ's diamity in the world, the power and dominion over your own life, the power to right your karma. Do not be afraid to face your karma. Do not be afraid to face all that you have created. There is a certain majesty in paying up your debts. There is a certain majesty in going free. There is a certain majesty in helping others to be free. I tell you, when you ascend and look back upon all the effort, you will be most grateful that you have made it. And you will be grateful more than anything else for the fact that you will be able to serve from the higher levels to set unascended men free, to be able to help children yet unborn to come to that place where they can receive from the hand of the ages, from the ruling power of the world, an opportunity to be schooled in the spiritual things, to hold within the schoolrooms of earth the power to breathe a holy prayer without fear of man's condemnation or Supreme Court decisions made against cosmic law. I want you to know then that the hand that rocks the cradle is still the hand that rules the world, and cosmic motherhood, honored by every knight of the flame upon our planet, is still reckoned with as the power to mold the men and women of the future, to draw the sacred fire mist of cosmic universal truth downward, to pass men through the sacred fire, to cause men to awaken and quicken themselves in the sacred fire consciousness, to cause mankind to recognize the power of the Ancient of Days and to be imbued with that flame every moment. Oh, is this prayer without ceasing? Yes, it is. It is the power without ceasing of invoking the flame. And now, as I am speaking to you, I have begun a special process of reactivation of the atoms of your body. I have actually started to pass through your physical forms the power of the sacred fire, which was actually held of old in the heart of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they were able to walk in the fiery furnace, and the smell of smoke could not even come upon them, because the atoms of their body had already been passed through the sacred fire, and the vibratory action of their atoms was raised by the universal Christ, the fourth man in the third man theme, that walked also in the fiery furnace, not as dream, but as cosmic reality superseding all mortality, manifestations of light and energy and power and strength. Pass now the threefold flame through the room, from the sacred urn upon Venus, amplify the power ray to do the will of God. Step it up. Amplify the illumination ray to know the will of God. Step it up. Amplify the love ray to know the love of God. Step it up. Threefold flames arise. Pulsate, pulsate, pulsate. Release, release, release the fragrance of the infinite into the hearts of the whole world. Let this antenna, composed of physical bodies, of minds, of hearts, of souls, release into the world through them now the power to make the whole world whole, to change the world for ages yet to come. This is our will, and future days will tell the tale. Have we done our work well? Have you done your work well? The Ancient of Days returns as Zarathustra of old to his flame. May my peace enfold you. May the peace of your presence enfold you. May the love of the ages enfold you. May faith and hope and charity enfold you. May mighty victory enfold you. And may the timeless sense remain with you always. Lo, he said, I am with you always. So shall it be. I thank you. The sign, then, of the heart and the head and the hand to you. May the peace of your presence abide with you wherever you are, wherever you go. May the glorious peace from your presence flow through days of service and nights of rest. May the peace of your presence keep you blessed. The sign of the heart and the head and the hand to you. May Lord Gautama's cosmic cross of white fire, mingling with the light of the universal cosmic Christ and every ascended being, seal you always in that ineffable light that is so very much a part of you, even as you are so very much a part of it. In the name of the Spirit of the Great White Brotherhood, we declare this convocation closed and the doorway to the universal heart of God eternally open. I am the open door which no man can shut. Will you say this with me at the request of Saint Germain 3 times together? I am the open door which no man can shut. I am the open door which no man can shut. I am the open door which no man can shut. Moria would instruct in soaring. Will you come with me then to that cloud-capped realm of your beloved Saint Germain, the realm of imagination, where you can create by the magic of the inner eye those symbols of future loveliness which you desire to see manifest in the world of form. For the substance of men's dreams is often reborn in outer world nonsense, because the dreams themselves have consisted of nonsense. We therefore summon the drawing up of the strings of consciousness and of the mind, so that the individual may safely soar in thought as a human dynamo imbued with the spirit of ageless love and service. It is not necessary for individuals to be molded by the social factors of environment. Individuals should cognize that they can, by a thought, lift themselves out of the paltry misery of this present age and enter into that magnificent spirit of God realization that enables us to fabricate in the world an invisible empire of divine servers who will recognize each other by reason of the spirit of universal hope and creative manifestation which comes forth as mighty light rays from the hemisphere of the mind and creates that glowing nimbus of universal reality which artists and visionaries have called the halo. For there is a halo of love, there is a train of emanation, a light beam of concentrated energy that comes forth from the aura of each individual's consciousness. When we think then in terms of outer world viciousness, and we see how that the aura is murky in color, brown and insipid as molasses, and flowing out into the world the vaporous substance that encloses men around about with a shroud of hate, we urge upon all the understanding not of darkness but of light. For light can be summoned, light can be invoked, light can be the key to man's freedom. It is a strange thing that out of 26 letters of the alphabet, so many words can be created. It is a strange thing that out of the magnificent manifestation of abridged or unabridged words in the dictionaries of men, such lofty and ignominious ideas can together be released into the stream of the world mind. Yet, as we examine the world mind and the fabric thereof, we are aware that it is both a sewer and a bower of loveliness. Momentarily, according to the degree of their own thought, men attune with the various segments of this flow of energy. At present, the level of mortal consciousness is far from the domain of heaven, far from the cloud-capped realm of the invisible realm. The sounds of the world lure men with ease from the spirit of Christ's principle. The sights of the world are also alluring, and the thoughts of men become so quickly taken over by the thoughts of others that tend downward. We then summon the elect from this age. The call has gone forth, and men have heard our voice. Let them understand the meaning of shrouds of darkness. Let them understand the meaning of shrouds of death and bitterness. And let them shun all that they could wear that is not the garment of the Lord or the garments of God. There is a tendency then in the world to permit the deceits of self to enclose the consciousness round about until the most beautiful concepts are trampled upon as though they were ugly and had no value. We are concerned with the development of a forthright recognition in the spirit of men, in the lenses of perception, in the perceiving apparatus of the universal banner of the Lord. For when this banner is raised up and men see it not, it is as though the energy of the raising has been expended in vain. And we are concerned with each jot and tittle of energy released into the world order. It is an interesting thing how that the fashion of the human mind feels itself prepared to judge the most lofty thoughts and to perceive behind them some subtle motive of human machination. We do not speak in contempt of mankind's noble efforts, but we certainly are aware of the denizens of darkness and those purveyors of human filth and degradation who have created in the world a place of incest where the temple of God should stand. And as I gaze upon the records of the dim past, that is, to the gaze of most individuals, I realize that right here, on this spot where I stand, a beautiful temple of hope was once erected, ministered to by angelic beings, and supervised by Vestal virgins whose hearts and thoughts were concerned with the capturing of their latent divinity. They thought then only in terms of right thought. And as I say this unto you, I urge upon you the cognition of the simple, the vesting of oneself with awareness of the simple. The power of right thought, the power of right thought, the power of right thought. For there is a tendency in the mind of man to take the most glorious ideas, and because they have heard them before, to say, this is not new. Precious ones, when the spirit of an individual is able to draw forth the Spirit of Christ's truth within any cosmic statement, he can make that statement ring forth at any given moment in time as though it were the very newness of God, a burnished, shining luster that brings hope into the world once again. What a pitiful thing it would be if all that has ever passed through the nexus of consciousness, of descending divinity, of the beauty of human endowments by the hand of God, should, because they have been known momentarily by a soul, or even held up throughout an age, be cast into a pile of discard simply because they were not new. What deceit is practiced then in the name of God for the dark ones who in their dens of iniquity seek to enslave the mind of men, to constantly engage the dynamos of their attention upon methods whereby they may rob mankind of happiness by spewing out vaporous ideas that vampirize the human mind and cause individuals to fail to see the beauties in life simply because they are not new, not at all, but simply because the mind and consciousness of the individuals in the world who are susceptible to these vibrations are prone to accept the hypnotic emanations of the black ones which are released into the atmosphere. These do not also understand, if they would, that the manifestations of Christ's purity and of beauty are also floating in the same atmosphere, mingling side by side with the dominoes of darkness that bring man down. You can find the pinions of light that lift man up, and the selectivity is always the forte of the God-realized man, or the individual, be it man, woman, or child, who is trained to understand the meaning of seeking out an idea rather than let the idea seek them out. And when you seek out an idea that is vitalized by the divine concepts within it, you must understand that the expectation of the vibrancy of the divine thought is in itself most enheartening, causing men to say, I am enlightened by that thought. It has buoyed me up. Yet I assure you that from time to time the same thought uttered by different lips and different hearts would have an entirely different effect upon the individual hearers. The whole concept then is one of vitalizing truth and seeing that it can be made to come alive, because truth in itself is actually a factor of the divine life. And when that factor comes to life within the domain of an individual, as a life expression of that individual, through the claiming of that quality specifically by an individual life stream, it is a living thing, do you see? And as it lives in man, so it lives in the universe. Ideas are the thoughts of God when they come forth from His mind, charged with His radiance, and are seized by the flame of the divine within the jaws of the heart. For the heart also must eat and be nourished and drink and draw forth energy, if the heart is to sustain the light patterns which God desires to see externalized in this age. Men do not yet understand the meaning of fictitious characterization. They do not realize that from time to time those artists, so-called, of the world, who serve the dark powers of the world, will draw images of popular faces and emblazon them by the art of printing upon the magazines of the world. These caricatures are degradations of the human form, symbological of destructivity and darkness, and have a tendency to pull down all greatness in the hearts and minds of those whose image and stamp they bear. For this distortion of the human form and figure in the name of art is like unto a surrealistic miasma drawn forth from the pits of the brothers of the shadow. We then want it to be known that the concepts of Dante Alighieri in his Dante's Inferno will also convey to mankind certain of the truths that are involved in the realm of the astral, in the realm of delirium tremens, and in the realm of drug addiction, where individuals in their psychic trips out into the astral realm find themselves literally torn apart by those beings which they seem to feel at the time are real, but subsequently decide are unreal. Let me stress to you that a thought is real. Let me stress to you that an idea in picturization is real, that when individuals see a dragon of darkness in a trip into the astral world by the use of psychedelic drugs, they are experiencing a horrendous meeting with a very vicious and destructive dark force, which can latch on to their own thought force and impale it significantly for a period of time in the nether world, to hold an energy allotment of an individual in bondage and slavery, tending to pull them down from time to time into those areas of degradation and destruction. I want everyone then to understand that the battle is going on now in the world of form. If you will only open your eyes and gaze upon these things, which is difficult for some of you who are dedicated purely to seeing the truth in a spiritual way, you will be able to understand the urgency of the hour and how very short the time is in which we can effect some transformation, or at least a forestallment in the youth of the world and in those ineffective manifestations of darkness which are being sent out into the world in the vain hopes that they can ultimately, permanently enslave mankind. I stress the transiency of these manifestations because it is necessary for individuals to recognize that they are paper tigers in one sense, but in another sense, vicious in the main and totally destructive. They are paper tigers, for they have no power over the light of God that never fails. They are paper tigers by comparison to the mighty power of Archangel Michael and of the ascended host. But to individuals who do not yet have a developed spiritual awareness of their divine presence, when these individuals are caught without even the knowledge of the sign of the cross or the power of exorcism in the vicious cross currents of these riptides of psychic energy, I tell you that it causes many of them to land in the asylums or go the route of human suicide. We would not then today see a continuation of this awful activity, for each soul upon the planet does bear yet, still to the moment, some resemblance to the mighty, original, perfected image of the divine. This is not said entirely as condemnation or censure for all of mankind, but only as censure to the brothers of the shadow, that they would, who once knew at least a portion of the spiritual path, now become urgers of mankind toward the expressions of demons. We have some knowledge of demons and of their expressions. We have observed down through the centuries the ritual of exorcism. We have seen the vaporous and horrid aspects of witchcraft. We have seen the nakedness and nudity of consciousness, which has entered into the hearts of men as they seek to fulfill the awful dark aspects of their own lusts. We are concerned then with developing those marvelous matrices of holy innocence which were a part of the symbological Adam and Eve in the original Garden of Eden. For Hedon was a place of infinite pleasure, where the divine himself could commune with men. Men do not now in this present hour understand all of those things except in a mystical or mythological way primarily. They are entirely too prone to fail to equate the intended release of Christ's truth in those stories and dramas which would, if they would let it, express to them the powerful admonitions of God which were revealed in the original moments of creation of this system of worlds and the entire planetary chain. I then ask you in God's name and in honor to His holy will to consider for one moment just what you will impute to the deity. Will you impute to the deity the creation of these frightful monsters of deceit? Will you impute to the deity the desire to enslave mankind into a round of mortal misery? I tell you, nay, for God has not created misery, neither has He fashioned it, nor has He had any pleasure in the death of the wicked, or in their destruction, or in the reaping by them of karmic reward for their shadowed activities of darkness. God is all that the name itself implies, goodness personified. The intent of the Father then is very high and very beauteous. It is not just a cloud-capped realm of clouded shapes, even whitened by light. It is a realm of spiritual wonder, where the most magnificent concepts are born. These concepts are dominant concepts, involving the psyche of man in the universal drama, involving the psyche of man in the universal plan. These concepts, by God, for man, represent the tenets of the holy will. The tenets of the holy will of God are good for all. They will enfold mankind every moment with light and with purity. The will of God is able also to free men from the ideas of enslavement. And liberation itself is a divine attribute. For the very quality of liberty which God gave unto man, and the blessing of freedom as a part of the divine plan, has enabled men to go their own gate. And therefore we find here upon this planetary body right now, even among some of the students of the light, those individuals who take their own sweet time about doing God's will. They know very well that they are doing certain activities that are not the desire of their own divine presence. They know very well, for they are not really innocent concerning just what they are doing, that they are being driven from time to time from the very door of the pleasures of spiritual Eden. Yet they continue to seek a crust of bread, a crumb from God's table in outer manifestation. Some little paltry thing that has no meaning at all becomes to them a fetish, a thing to be sought, while the mighty drama of the Spirit and its understanding, the power of the universal consciousness, is not at all made clear to them, simply because they do not apply thought to it. Now, thought itself is actually quite plastic and can be molded by the will. And when it is molded by the will and fashioned thereby, it can become a very fluffy and delicate substance that will harden under the desire and pressure of the light and man's search for it. Therefore, when one submits the matrices of the mind to the divine and asks that the stamp of cosmic nobility be inscribed thereupon, calls also to the Godhead to see that the matrices are hardened, these matrices will be, and when they are, they become a reservoir of spiritual strength to that individual. For after all, just as mankind create these matrices of thought and feeling, so can they see a parallel in the very use of language. For language itself does make use of certain ancient figures and symbols, lineaments that can be inscribed upon the consciousness and then deciphered at will. Will individuals then join me as I bring to your attention this afternoon the quite natural power of how the mind can be reached up toward God and receive from His hand the pressures of His love? For God will inscribe His laws upon the hearts and minds of men. And these were statements made of old as prophecy. Yet the Christ truth embodied within them has totally escaped many who consider their mind to be something like their underwear, something that they can take out periodically for a washing and airing. I would like to remind you that your mind is much more. It is the endowment of universal intelligence, the capacity to receive from the mind of God those thoughts which you also can retain, not only for a moment, but forever. For the ancient tablets of Mem do hold the negative and positive polarities that enable men to record forever the blessings of Christ's truth and of universal reality. This enables men to retain their own spiritual identity, to become a blessing forever to the universe. And what is the universe? You and I, one, you and I, together, all of us, the manifestation of completion, not just one, for God Himself has said, it is not good for man to be alone. Let it be understood then that the creative expression has constantly rushed forth from the mighty presence of life in the heart of the great central sun, and down the hall of the grand galaxies there has rushed forth the desire of the Father to express creatively. This also is latent, dormant, or sleeping in every man. We stress it again. This is latent, dormant, and sleeping in every man. This is latent, dormant, and sleeping in every man. We stress it again. This is latent and sleeping and dormant in every man. Well, if this be so, and it must be because I said it so many times, certainly it bears repeating to yourself many times. For once you realize that man can sleep and truly be one who is dead, that yet can live long enough to permit his ears to hear the voice of the Son of God, any Son of God, that he may live, you will realize that you have, after all, submitted to the lullabies of life that have rocked the spiritual self to sleep, while the outer material self has sought to garner its good in the world of form. And as it has done so, what has it profited those of you who have gained, so to speak, figuratively, the whole world, and become a castaway from spiritual experiences in depth? Oh, I have watched how individuals have gingerly set their feet upon the path, stepping from one stone to another, and fearing lest they might slip. And then when some green slime appears upon a rock, they avoid it assiduously. They do not seem to understand that spiritual chlorophyll can sometimes be found in strange places. My goodness, you don't even laugh when I say something like this. Is this because your sense of humor is completely tied up in these spiritual environments? Do you think for one moment that the ascended host are completely free of seeing the humor in life? Well, I tell you, no. We must, in order to keep our sanity at inner levels, particularly when we work with human beings in the world below. For this is enough to drive to almost a state of falling majesty, even the highest among the archangels. And I tell you, precious ones, that some very ludicrous situations have actually occurred at inner levels, which have kept us somewhat readers of the comic pages of the cosmos. For we are able also to find our comic relief that does bring to all of us an awareness that God is truly the God of happiness. And whereas many individuals have from time to time characterized me as a being whose will is absolutely ironclad, and some would actually like to call me Old Ironsides, I think that if you will stop for a moment and pause to reflect what is the most important ingredient in the universe today, and I think that the most important ingredient in the universe today is will. For will is the cohesive spiritual power that enables an individual to firm themselves in cosmic idealism and efforts towards spiritual attainment by making picturizations of what they want to be, what they would like to express in the future. Individuals are always subjected to the pressures of others whose stereotyped domains are constantly encircling them with the most awful ideas. Why, we sometimes in mercy's name have even violated cosmic law and made karma by doing it because we could not stand a mother's concept of her child. Do you realize then what this means? It means that sometimes we have to stay away from people, lest we become too sympathetic to their hapless aims. Let us then say that we can sympathize with those of you who are sometimes so full of love that you are overly generous with your energy, and sometimes meddle where you ought not to your own hurt, and create thereby a lack of spiritual progress over a whole 10-year period, simply because you were so interested in some individual who wasn't even enough interested in themselves to take the first step, but you just kept on coddling them and working with them because you hoped that eventually you could penetrate their densities. And then after a while you suddenly got the idea that maybe heaven itself did not favor your efforts, and so you ceased. And just about that time the individual could not understand why you dropped them so completely out of your life. And they began to lament about this and to wonder just what was wrong. And by themselves they came crawling back to you, and at that time you were not too interested in helping them. And so on their own, they actually externalized just a little bit of love and created a great deal of good for themselves by doing it. So perhaps maybe after all there is a little excuse for some human sympathy, but I think that most people carry it too far. And I say this as an absolute admonishment to you. I say it with all sincerity. I believe that many carry it too far. But one can also carry too far a spirit of aloofness and feel because they have had bad experiences in the world in working with life streams that they are actually engaging their enemies in helping others, and others are not interested in helping themselves, and then withhold help when it is very badly needed. So may God help each and every one of you to see His holy will, and to have that marvelous sense of balance like a razor's edge that will know just when you should do and when you should don't. I hope then that if you will accept the pressures of my will this afternoon, you will realize that God is always active in trying to create beautiful new impressions of the inflexible will of God that has to be inflexible for each and every one of you and for the universe. For if the Most High God Himself were to vacillate in His aims, I ask you what it would mean to human beings who come to the portals of God's will if they should find that He was out a-gadding and would not take any interest in them at that specific moment when they decided after all that now they would take interest in Him. Be patient, blessed ones. The Most High God, sometimes by reason of cosmic laws that He Himself has written, will also obey His own laws, and thus He is not teasing you. He is simply letting you, in your fervent search, discover for yourselves that all that you do to serve His will is a thing of worth, For after all, as you heard this afternoon, in a little of the meanderings of the Grail consciousness, man can really create himself. And this is God's will. Let us hope that more of you will be up and about and doing it. I thank you. No pagan shrine is our retreat here in India, the retreat of the Indian Council. Through the mosaics, a shaft of golden light descends upon a scene of many faces and strange garbs, for we often come together dressed as we were previous to our ascension, representing then many races who have also at one time or another called India our home. We feel very much a part of the world order, for our excursions into the world, our excursions into the world consciousness in many of our experiences, while yet unascended, have fitted us for the task of deliberation concerning mortal affairs and the mediatorship between embodied mankind, the whole of society, and the spiritual hierarchy. As we pause then to consider the solemn state of world affairs from generation to generation, we pause also for a moment of mirth to see in some of the tragic situations of the world a bit of humor, and thereby lighten the load of those who must deliberate continuously upon the problems of humanity in order to bring forth at inner levels some deliberate activity calculated to release world tensions. to drain the energy from the springs of human resentment so tightly coiled around old and encrusted ideas, ideas that have festered almost from their origin. And as we seek to do this, the similarity, the sameness of much of this activity could, if we were not wholly dedicated to our service, cause us to be bored with all that we would seek to do. For the reactions of mankind that sometimes seem so imponderable to many of you are not so to us. While it has well been said by Saint Germain that human conduct is often unpredictable, to say the most, we also, and he also, would agree that there is an element of predictability in mortal consciousness. And we are thankful at times that this is so, although we would to God that it would be possible to generate a greater susceptibility on behalf of the world community pertaining to the things of the Spirit and the things that will prepare the individual not for the embalming of his physical body, which seems to be so much the concern of men, or a mausoleum, but to build a spire and temple of the Spirit in the dedicated life which is dedicated gloriously to the unfolding of world service and avenues of strength in the world community. As we seek then to generate a flow of sustaining elements of good in society, we realize again and again the difficulty of even planting the seed. For throughout the world, it must be recognized, the seed must always be planted in fertile human levels of consciousness. And increasingly as the years have gone by, we have found a dearth of responsive and receptive individuals. Many of those that have in the past provided us with marvelous fertility for spiritual expansion have now reached a physical age where they are no longer able to actively engage in the Lord's service. And so, as we have turned and sought to turn to the younger in the world, so that we might indeed be prepared to render a constant service to humanity in fending off the negative conditions of the world and helping to develop souls for specific world missions, we have encountered ourselves great difficulty in the past years. Therefore, at inner levels, it may be of interest to you that any number of God-free beings have themselves volunteered from various levels to descend and take embodiment in mortal form once again, even to the point of asking and petitioning the higher councils to set aside certain spiritual laws pertaining to re-embodiment that have been almost a fixed thing insofar as the universal code has been concerned. It may interest you to know that ascended beings have even petitioned to be permitted to give up their rights and to descend into flesh form. This has been denied in most all cases, for it is an almost unwritten code in the realm of the brotherhood that once ascended, always ascended. Nevertheless, in the vernacular of the man on the street, it could be said that the council is scraping the barrel, the bottom of the barrel, to try to find talent and devotion and dedication in the outer world of form that will submit to the rigors of initiation, the testing, the ponderous weight of the world's karma, and the awful responsibility of serving the needs of humanity at this time of great world testing, when the fires of chrysalis burn brightly for some, and the unfortunate regime of human infamy fills the consciousness of others as they plot to defraud and to deceive mankind of their immortal spiritual inheritance. Long ago, as we paused to deliberate the things that we should call to the attention of men, we encountered some difficulty in acquainting mankind with the concept of black magic, of the brothers of the shadow, and of the false hierarchy. Individuals simply did not take too well to the idea of invisible, disembodied beings whose purposes would be malign. Now then, it seems that as an ostrich with head in sand, individuals were constantly searching the invisible realm, the realm of so-called spirit, to find only beautiful, glorious, lovely, cosmic beings, angelic faces, and kindly disposed individuals who would serve their every need almost in the manner of Aladdin at the rub of the magic lamp. We hesitated to disabuse childlike minds of this condition, yet we knew that peril would be increased if we did not make them aware of the dangers of the netherworld, of the astral world, of the dark forces functional in society. And so the decision was made, let the chips fall where they may. Christ's truth must be proclaimed, and men must be prepared to become warriors of the Spirit. The Bhagavad Gita, in its tuitions to Aruna, conveyed beautiful thoughts about the spiritual warfare, the battle that is necessary in order to overcome the darkness and density that is within men. And now today, as the powers of democracy vie with the powers of communism in the world order, there are also myriad, minute forces at work, together with those that are quite large from their focal planes of negativity, to create unhealthy appetites for the children of the world, involving the battle of the senses. We then call to your attention, as protectors of the mortal domain, how many of the youth of the world, both male and female, are constantly being subjected to the powers of destructivity through dangerous drugs and activities concerned with carnality. These are frequently, far too frequently, prematurely aged. At 30, some of them appear to be 50 and more. Burned out shells are they, and never again will it be possible in this embodiment to rehabilitate these blessed ones. Strange as it may seem, I must tell you that amongst them are the best hopes of hierarchy. For those whose love nature is peculiarly strong are often best able to serve hierarchical purposes. But when they are turned away from spiritual goals and spiritual flashings forth into the domain of the astral, where the denizens of the deep, the sharks of jagged energy, can torture their souls by bringing them down into the netherworld, as in the cult of the Minotaur, to a place where torus substance can engross them round about and prevent them from understanding the meaning of the Christ consciousness and the enfoldment of mind and body and being with the swaddling light of the universal Christ, it brings them to a pitiful state where we cannot use them. And this, of course, is the purpose. The strange siren-like attitude of the dark forces, the piping to mankind and calling forth in them the dance of response. When then and where will the necessary deliverance come? What shall be done, as there is indeed a gap between those presently holding up the banners of freedom in the spiritual community and those who were destined to hold it, but who will not because of failure? We ask then that as we of necessity turn to the world of the ill-prepared to place in their hands the scepter that belonged to those chosen before they had passed through the portals of birth, that you, each and every one who understand that which I am speaking of, shall make calls for those who were ill-prepared but must fill the gap in time of battle. I want you to know that we have had recommendations on the table that those over 70 years of age should carry the responsibility of those who are 16 and 20. I pause because I want these words to sink down deeply into your hearts. We do not consider you the scrapings of the barrel, but we consider you to be old warriors of the Spirit who have long held fast to the beauties of Christ consciousness. We ask you then to serve a little longer until we can succeed in bringing in those beautiful volunteer souls who have asked to return to the screen of life at an earlier date and hour before the batteries of consciousness could be recharged properly, that they may serve the hierarchy, the Indian Council, the Darjeeling Council, and the Council of the Grand Teton. The god Meru and the goddess Meru, in their beautiful retreat of holy wisdom at Lake Titicaca, have constantly worked and served with your beloved Mother Mary in seeking to provide what we term new avenues of holy innocence. Innocence is the most charming and delightful state of consciousness. It is a state that we find ourselves able to preserve side by side with our ability to discern what is acting in the world and in the spiritual realm. Duality must be understood, and the power to dominate duality must be cognized. The power to dominate duality is the power to be able to turn momentarily to the light of innocence, to the sweet simplicity of innocence, to the childlike grace of innocence, to the dominant power of spiritual innocence that goeth to the heart of God and saith, Father, here I am. No sense of sin, of stain, of harm, but only the beautiful spiritual harmlessness of the innocent child Christ, man, going to God to draw forth beautiful energies and release them into a world that has become a charnel house of destruction. This contrasts in the individual who has this dual state with the cognition of the awful perils, the dragons of shadow-shaped things the destructive engines that men have unleashed into the world, and the awful peril of man's ignorance and ignorance of spiritual responsibility. Today we are face to face then with a cult that appears to be a cult of light, a cult that seeks to endow men with the power of the Spirit that will give them the power to obtain in the world of form this world's goods without achieving or accepting spiritual responsibility. Numerous books are being unleashed upon the market to show men and women how they can tap the secrets of the universe. The whole problem is that no one in the universe can do anything without the interaction of the law. Therefore, if men draw in the universe specific momentums of holy energies into their world for the purposes of materializing good unto themselves, but recognize no spiritual responsibility to the spiritual brotherhoods, to the sacred orders, to assist in also balancing the good they draw by an equal amount of good contributed into the universe, there is a vast karmic danger that they will find themselves forfeiting not only much of that which they have gained, but also at other times and other places being called upon to pay double the recompense for that which they have received, and still find themselves at the periphery of the brotherhood's initiatic system and far, far away from the heart of universal innocence. As I come to you then this day, it is to address not only those of you who are here in flesh form, but to address those spirits of the innocent that serve the cause of divine good upon the planet, and to say that we must continue one and all to plow a straight furrow as example to mankind. We must show forth cosmic integrity and the fruit of universal order. We must cognize the enormous energy that is wielded by spiritual beings such as the Lord Mahachohan. We must recognize the beautiful energies that are held in the consciousness of the universal Christ, and see that those energies in cosmic torrents are reservoirs in the heart of the Master Jesus, the Master Saint Germain, the Master El Morya, the great divine director, the angelic host, the cosmic beings, and the spillover from cosmic levels often causes the little beings of the air, the sylphs, the beings of the earth, the gnomes, the beings of the fire, the mighty salamanders, and the beings of the water, the undines, to pirouette, to dance, to leap for joy, as they see in every fresh new burst of energy the possibility that man is at last becoming free from his hatred, his viciousness, his indulgence and dependence upon dangerous drugs and synthetic compounds for his energy. They feel that perhaps at last he is once again tapping the secrets of light, that at last he is once again entering into communion with his own divine God presence. And so the reality of the Christed ones flashes as hope into these tiny elemental beings whose limited lifespan, though it be over 1,000 years, in many cases, has been one filled with service to humanity. The clouds of the sky with their vaporous trailings, Release the love of the sylphs into the air. The flashings of the fire, the flame of the salamanders, breathes to God as Zendavestian priests of old a holy prayer. The gnomes within the heart of earth, their gold as illumination flame refined. This each man does seek to claim, to make his own. 'Tis mine, they say. And still withal the undines of the sea do summon in the hearts of men restraint against emotion's paw, a claim, I live now once again as God commands us all. We then, who work from higher levels of the cosmos, who would, if we could, take microphone in hand and speak to world at large, must frame our words to smaller crowds and be content. But we dare not let this contentment prevent us from uttering into the atmosphere the pronouncements of the councils of the Great White Brotherhood. And so, although I have spoken with a miniature softness, although I have spoken with the softness of the petals of a rose, although I have caressed your minds with the spirit of holy innocence, there is a strong and valiant flashing forth in that which our council seeks to do. There are many who have recognized the power of prophecy and observed how that prophecy has a tendency toward destruction. Mankind have sometimes said, I do not choose to believe it yet. Well, gracious ones, the Father has no desire to chasten the Son, and the Divine One, the universal God presence of all, has no desire to bring horror upon the world. But there is a horror that they themselves have brought upon the universe. It is true that that which they have done has often been wrought in ignorance. Ignorance of the law of the one, ignorance of the effects that one can bring upon the many. But the law itself is most impersonal. And therefore, when there is a build-up, an accumulation of misqualified energy in the world, reaching down into the strata of the earth, and the elementals and beings of the earth are overpowered by it, they can do no more than shrug from off their shoulders all that substance that man has imposed upon them. True then it is that the beings who ride upon the clouds must likewise divest themselves of stormy energies betimes. And yet the fire itself must consume the dross in the world's thought, even as the whole activity of each tiny elemental is filled with service, so they must serve God in exhibiting in the world the old memory of the days when nature did outpicture her patterns to produce upon the perfect rose no thorn. Now then, when thorns in consciousness did appear, nature did quite clearly show forth those hateful ideas that man himself had framed and put them on the point, a sharp and penetrating point of blame from human hearts against other human hearts. But the fragrance of the rose is sweet to this moment, It bringeth forth repose and delight in each moment. It bringeth forth the essence of the light in each moment. The rose, then, known by other name, is sweet. A flame of pink, a radiance to make men think of love enfolding all. We then who represent the Indian Council are concerned that each of you shall understand the gentleness of innocence, the sweetness of the innocent countenance, the sweetness of the innocent thought, the sweetness of the innocent plan. But as Gideon of old, hold thy shield close unto thy heart, and thy spear in hand, as the invocation of the light, to fend off the denizens of the deep, and keep the flame of innocence abroad within the young and tender. Guard them well, for this is our charge to you today. All charges of the past could decay away by contrast to the enormous power I wield this moment. I wield a power backed by the entire Council of India and the Grand Teton Council to call forth from the hearts of devotees of the Christ everywhere a response greater than any that has ever before manifested upon the earth to protect the spirit of holy innocence in the young, to sustain the fragrance of holy innocence in all men at any age, to proclaim the victory of innocence as unprinted page, a realm upon which man may inscribe by future deeds the power of the virgin seeds of Christ-like beauty, fullness, pulling out the weeds and seeing not the shadow for the light. All